Hey, my name is TJ. I'm a young person in long-term recovery, and for me, that means I haven't had a drink or a drug since August 9th, 2016.
Okay.
I am here today with my friend
Lamont Albert, CCAR, coach, recovery coach, volunteer, person in recovery.
That's awesome. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
I know a little bit about your story, and I would absolutely love to hear more and have you share that with us today. So, where'd you grow up?
Grew up in the Bronx, New York.
Okay.
Went to Catholic school from first grade all the way through high school.
Wow.
Catholic high school, all boys school, Rice High School in Harlem, New York, Manhattan, New York. Played college basketball. Went to college in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Lincoln University.
Nice.
In Amish country.
What position did you play?
Forward and guard.
There you go.
Yeah, I was very good. Left-handed.
Nice.
Jump to the moon. Yeah, did well. Pleasure fraternity. I'm in a fraternity, a national fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity.
Okay.
Yeah, and got out of school. Didn't graduate. This is when my drug use started. On a very innocently, marijuana.
Yep.
And one of my roommates was from Philadelphia, and I'm being from New York, so my roommate would go home, and he would leave the weed in the drawer, and people would come by the room and ask for the weed. One of my uncles is an alumni. He's medical doctor. He's since passed, and he drove up one day and he said to me, "I heard you're selling weed." And how we knew, I don't know. But the school at that time had a very small population. It was only maybe 1,300 students, Now it's about 3 times that amount. Over the years, it's expanded to campus and everything else like that. And I said, no, I don't smoke. But I guess at that point, weed wasn't really a big deal back then. And we're talking about in the 70s, 1974, 75.
Yep.
And I was like, but I was a little bit concerned. I said, man, how does he know? But I kept smoking weed, and as a result of that, I never got a degree. So I spent 4.5 years in college and never got a degree. And I consider the marijuana to be like a gateway drug for me.
Okay.
So I got out of school, finishing school, not getting a degree, like I said. And it was a lull in my addiction for a while. I didn't do anything for a while. I started working for a big corporation, but I had a really good job, traveling all over the country, flying all over the place, in commercial accounts, commercial collections. Come to find out that most of the employees were doing drugs. One of the district managers had invited us to his home, and he was cooking up the crack cocaine in a coffee pot. The kid his baby was in the playpen. The wife was upstairs cooking, making meal for us, me and another employee. And I said, wow, this is it. This is what I had heard all my life about Wall Street, how they sniff cocaine off the table. And That job was very short-lived. After about 3.5 years, it got to a point where I couldn't even function anymore. I had met a guy on the job, and he asked me if I knew. I don't know why he came to me, but he felt comfortable enough. Another black guy came to me and asked me if I knew where to get cocaine in the city, in Manhattan, Washington Heights, to be exact. And so I said, yeah, sure, having a need of acceptance, wanted to be accepted on the job, wanted to, flash and be flashy. Mm-hmm. So we would drive down to Manhattan, and I would go cop for him, and he'd sit in the car with tinted windows. And I realized that I was taking all the risks. I started tapping the package, and eventually I started using it myself. One day on the avenue in Greenwich, on my lunch break, I met a young lady from that worked for ABC. I said, well, my birthday is coming up the following week. So she said, well, I'll take you out for your birthday. So but that day came, and we started walking towards the car. And I said, well, there's a lot of sports bars here that we can have lunch at. No, I have a surprise for you. So we go to her car, which was parked behind an abandoned, used to be a Woolworths. And I guess it was closed for whatever reason. And her car was parked in the back. 2:00 in the afternoon, sunny afternoon. And I went to go get in the front of the seat. She said, no, go get in the back seat. And she whipped out this bowl, which anybody that's ever done coke before, crack cocaine, it's a bowl with 2 mouthpieces. And she told me when she lit it to pull on it. So I pulled on it. You didn't feel it? No, I didn't feel anything. And this went on, her calling me every week, because I got paid every Friday, calling me every Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday. Do you want me to get some of that stuff? So one day I had made some extra money on the job, and I gave her some money, $100, and she went downtown, met me at my apartment. I had an apartment in White Plains.
Yep.
So one day I went to go smoke the stuff, and I just kept going back to the stuff. I would put it away, put it up, and I would go back. So they call tweaking and tweaking and so forth,
Yeah.
And so I went downtown one day with the idea to go get some for myself. And now at that time, this was in the 70s. This was the early 80s. And at that time, they had these stirrers that would tell you where to go. They had these Spanish guys, Cubans or whatever, Dominicans, and they would tell you where to go. And I went into this basement. Now, all the guys were talking English outside the front of the building. When I got into the building, I still had on my shirt and tie suit. And I was told, later on that you should never come downtown looking like that because you got a lot of money. You're setting yourself up. Anyway, I go into this building, to this basement, and all these guys are talking Spanish all of a sudden. I said, man, they're going to get me. They're going to kill me, whatever. And it turned out that when I got in there, the guy was sitting there with the 2-pan scale. And I gave him $100. He gave me a whole bunch of cracks. So I realized that the girl, I was basically supporting her habit.
Yep.
So now I knew where to go. And so it was on, and
Yep.
this went on, and this was 1986. It was really at the height of the crack addiction, and that began a real saga of a lot of pain and suffering, man,
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing with crack, too, like, you can never have enough. It just doesn't ever stop.
Right.
It stops when the money stops.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
then, you have the thing, and, you could take a hit and be, tweaking.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come down a little bit, and you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. I need more.
Yeah.
And,
Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that I spent a tremendous amount of money between what I made at the company, and then, of course, I got into a hustle where I don't know, for some reason, people always felt comfortable with me on the street. And I would stand by ATMs literally and tell people I lost my wallet. And in places like Bronxville, White Plains, I seemed to be able to tell where people had money. I could smell money literally.
Yep.
And this went on for years. I went out there scamming people,
What would you do? Tell them you had...
tell them I lost my wallet. And I would literally go on Metro North and make an announcement, like anybody, because I used to work for Westchester Medical Hospital, and I still had the badge. After I got fired,
Yep.
After 90 days, they wouldn't let me work the 90 days. I did 90 up to 80 something days, because after 90 days you get put in the union. And my wife at the time was going through some stuff, and my mother had Alzheimer's at the time, and my daughter was having her first child. So I always had this reason to be out of work. And of course, when you're on probation, you can't be out of work.
Yep.
In 90 days, and in 60 days, I was out 3 or 4 times. And I was a chef at the hospital there, so they let me go. And so in the meantime, so I would just hustle money. I would go on the street. I started robbing my own wife.
Yep.
She would put money all throughout the house in books, hide under the couch, on the pillow. And I would seem to find the money everywhere she put it. Which I'm very ashamed of to this day,
Mm-hmm.
I've since paid her back some of it, but I could never pay her back for all the money that I took and all the heartache that I caused,
Well, that's why
Because that money was rent money. That was rent money. That was money for the kids. I have 3 children, and they're all grown now, but at that point, they had to eat, and so she would have to, hustle up to try to get the money for the rent, and for them to eat, and many times she said, listen, that food in the refrigerator is for them, not for you. And I'm like, okay, I'll go to soup kitchen, my life was very simple from that standpoint, but I didn't have to live like that because I did have money. But if you didn't catch me the night of as soon as I got my money, I used to get a text on the phone, that my money arrived. And as soon as I got that text, I was off to the ATM. And if you didn't catch me at that point, the money was gone. And I would come back always the next day. I would never come home the same day. And my wife would say, you didn't bring any money back? You don't have nothing left? $800-900 down the drain,
Mm-hmm.
I once had my mother to tell me, one day I went to visit her because I stayed away from my family because I was very self-conscious about how I looked. If you saw me on the street, you wouldn't know that I was smoking because I always kept myself clean cut. But anyone that knew me knew that something wasn't right. I wasn't talking right. I wasn't looking right, the whole 9 yards, And my mother said, go get your coat. And I said, Mom, why would you want me? Where we going? She said, we're going to get some of that crack, because I don't understand how you could spend so much money in one night. And I said, Mom, you got to be crazy. You think I'm going to buy crack for you? So we didn't go, obviously. But she was at her wit's end.
Yep.
My mother once said to me, we got insurance for you because we know that you don't have life insurance. So we're just waiting for that call that we found you somewhere in an alleyway or somewhere and we want to give you a proper burial. That's a hell of a thing for a mother to tell a son.
Yep.
I'm the oldest, And so, so this went on for years. So I've been to over 50 rehabs. I'm not talking about detox. I'm talking about rehab, long-term, short-term. I've been to Teen Challenge, which is a Christian rehab, in Missouri. I've been to California. I've been to Florida, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach. All this in the quest for recovery.
Yep.
And I would do all the right things, say all the right things up until it came time to hit Kennedy Airport. As soon as I hit the airport, my stomach started bubbling, and I'm on my way down to Harlem, 125th Street, in an Uber or whatever,
Yep.
And so it's been 38 years of using crack, and this excludes the weed that I used prior to that, So I'm 68 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So half my life I spent using drugs, Thank God I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, but I do have alcohol history, because in order to get detox from crack, there is no detox for crack. You just rest and you eat. So I always had to have an alcohol in my system. So I do have an alcohol history, but I can't drink. I don't drink.
Mm-hmm.
First time I ever drank in college, we were watching the Super Bowl, and I blacked out. I woke up in my room, and there was money on my bed. I had gambled for the game, whatever, Super Bowl game. But I don't remember how I got to my room. So I knew right away, right then and there, that I can't drink. And for those last 3 or 4 days, every time I saw a liquor bottle, I would just start to heave, literally,
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I couldn't drink. And I believe had crack been the same way as alcohol, I would never have done crack. I would have stopped a long time ago.
Yep.
But I never did any other drugs. I never did pills or anything like that. Never did dope, thank God, even though it was introduced to me. But I always had a wherewithal to say, no, I don't want to do that, But the crack, it was enough in itself.
Yes.
Me talking about 38 years, 40 years of in and out of drugs. And so what really brought it to an end was when I got incarcerated because of a check that someone had given me. At 65 years of age, I decided to get a felony.
Are you ready to make a difference in the lives of others? If so, then you should consider becoming a recovery coach. Recovery coaches are trained to help people in recovery, seeking recovery, or struggling with addiction. They provide support, guidance, and resources to help people on their recovery journey. CCAR Training is the leading provider of recovery coach training programs. Our programs are designed to teach you the skills and knowledge, what we call the science, while giving you an understanding of your own art needed to be a successful recovery coach. We offer a variety of training options, most offered online. If you're interested in becoming a recovery coach or just learning more, I encourage you to visit our website or contact us today. We would be happy to answer any questions you have and help you get started on your journey to becoming a recovery coach. We hope you'll visit us at www.addictionrecoverytraining.org to learn more.
How CCAR came into play, when I got sent to Osborne up in Somers, Connecticut, I got introduced to Brian Guyton.
Yes.
Who was our coach at the time.
He was just on the podcast.
Yeah, I know. And he was instrumental in just supporting me. And he brought up the idea, listen, I think you might be a good coach. So at that time, they all offered the RCA, which is Recovery Academy, in Osborne. So I took advantage of that and did 10 weeks of that. And then I told them one thing about me. When I make connections with somebody, if I say I'm going to call you, I take your number, I'm going to call you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take numbers down just to say, oh, let me get your number. And I told Brian, and true to form, I stayed in contact with him, as well as the Bible teacher who was coming up there, Deacon O'Neill I go to First Cathedral Church in Bloomfield. Wonderful church, one supportive. And I stayed in contact with both those individuals. And so I got sent to Maple Street halfway house in Bridgeport after being released in December 4th of last year. And during that time that I was in the Maple House, halfway house, we had a death. We had an overdose death.
It's awful.
And so my parole said to me, I said, well, listen, I have an income, I get retirement. So they put me in a parole bed, which is how I could wind up in Hartford. I got involved with the Bridgeport CCAR for a short time while I was in there. And then they said, one day I came in from CCAR that afternoon, and I got a letter saying from parole that I was going to be transferred. The first thing that came to my mind, oh my God, how am I going to do CCAR anymore? Not knowing that there were other centers at the time, not knowing, Connecticut as a whole. And thank God I got set up here and found that there was a CCAR office where we are today, the Hartford office. And so I continued on with my training and so forth, and I've done a host of training. I've done the ethics consideration. I've done the professionalism. I've done another RCA face-to-face here for 5 days, and it's been just a rewarding thing. It's been a privilege. Even during this now is a privilege to be able to give my story, hoping that somebody may hear and not go through what I went through, because I wouldn't have wished what I went through on my worst enemy. Mm-hmm. I tell you, living in the streets, and I was homeless with a home. I had a home to go to, that's the ironic thing, that I was homeless with a home, and wouldn't go home, like I said, when I was using, because I was very self-conscious about how I looked, But I had the nerve, the audacity to call my wife after being on a run. I'm on my way home. What are you coming home for now? And I would hang up the phone, get to the door, trying to kick the door down, and being in a building with a 21-story building and having the neighbors, I'm kicking the door, and my wife is in the room scared to death because, you look crazy. Of course, with people that don't use drugs, they hear a lot of stuff, and they don't know if you're really going to do something. Mm-hmm. If, you hear stories of people robbing their own mother, their own family, I'm saying like that, gunpoint, you ain't going to give me the money, I'll take, So people who don't use, the worst comes to mind, So my wife a lot of times wouldn't even let me in. I don't know how many times I had a restraining orders put on me. I never put my hands on my wife, but she said, you can't be around the children like this, mm-hmm. You got 3 beautiful children. I have 2 beautiful daughters and a son.
Yep.
And thank God they were never homeless. My wife somehow, some way was able to get the money. They never got put out, They always ate, but I'm still dealing with some of the ramifications of me not being an absentee father with one of my daughters who lives right here in West Haven.
Yep.
She will not talk to me. Okay. 32 years old. Now, my other 2 children, I have another daughter from a previous relationship before I met my wife, who's a nurse. They all have college degrees. They're all doing well. One's a nurse. My son works for the fire department, fireman. Another one, 2 of them are nurses, and one also works for is the post office. 12 years. And so thank God that they didn't get the full rap. But today, they don't know how to talk with each other. They have no coping skills, no anger management skills, because all they saw was their mother constantly at me. Talking about why you're doing drugs. I don't want to be with you anymore. And so all they were exposed to was a lot of chaos and a lot of craziness, Mm-hmm. And, to this day, there's still some of it, some residue of that even today, And I attribute that to my daughter, but I know that people have their own times when they heal, and hopefully they will heal. Sometimes people don't heal, but you have to give people their space, and in this case, my daughter. So thank God I have 3 out of 4 that still are very supportive of me today. Being with CCAR, I wish to continue in my training and with the hopes of being a CCAR professional one day, working in the field as a recovery coach, and who knows, the sky's the limit. I'm a man of God. I gave my life back to God. One of the things about incarceration, it was really a rescue operation for me. You know, it saved my life because I was running so hard, TJ, that I didn't stand still long enough to hear anything. So being incarcerated, I finally got to a point where I had to just sit and look at myself. Where do I want to go? I'm a grandfather. I say I'm a man of God, that I believe God, but I'm living like the devil. So I got involved with the church. I'm heavily involved with the church. I make meetings. I have a sponsor. I have a therapist.
Nice.
I have a coach. I run groups. I facilitate groups. I do training. I get trained,
Yep.
And it's like sky's the limit, man. It's just really a blessing to be alive, man. 68 years old, just had a birthday August 21st.
That's awesome.
I'm
Happy birthday.
thank you. I'm living in a parole home where I don't have to pay any rent. I go to the YMCA. I don't have to pay any membership fees. Everything has been afforded to me. It's kind of ironic because I think if I was a regular citizen, half these opportunities wouldn't be available to me. So being an ex-felon, if there's any benefit from it or any positives, one of the few positives, I have a lot of these resources available to me.
Yep.
Whereas if I was a regular citizen, I wouldn't have these availabilities, So being here doing the podcast, being around you guys it's been a blessing, and I just can't thank you enough, thank God enough, thank CCAR enough, and all the support, because we just ran a group on support today. We did a group, which is called ARM. And we ran a group about support and community and how important it is to network. And all I do is network. I let people know where I am today. And I tell people in the group, as I said earlier today in the group, let people know where you are. Don't be afraid to let people know where you are. Because like for me, in my own story, I ran hard for a long time and I didn't care who saw me. I used to get calls from my daughter, Daddy, where are you? I heard you was down by the highway flagging cars down for money. Daddy, my one of my friends from school said you buying drugs from them. They would tell my son that I'm buying crack, but they wouldn't stop selling to me. He would be embarrassed, and my response was like, "Well, that's on me. I'm Albert, But no, it's a reflection on the family.
Yep.
It's not just on me. That's your dad out there. That's my dad out there. Daddy, what are you doing on the other side of Mount Vernon by the projects? You don't have no business down there. Well, what are you worried about it for? Mind your business. That was my response, And it's like I said, just the grace of God that I'm still here, man. I wound up owing money to deal, and the way it is with the crack game is that as long as you keep, even if you owe money, most of the time, as long as you keep, buying from them, they don't have a problem, you owing them, But as soon as you say, I don't want to do it no more, now you got to pay up, I can't go back to that. That is that's not a way to live, man.
No.
I was a walking dead, And so today I just thank God for where I am today, and the opportunity has been afforded to me. I try to get back and get the best out of each day, And I just thank God when I wake up every morning, and I have an opportunity to share my experience. Hopefully somebody will hear, because you don't have to live. God didn't make us to live this way.
Yep.
He wants us to have the best in life, And doing drugs, alcohol is not the best way, And a lot of things out there, with marijuana now, we know that it's legal. Doesn't mean it's good for you.
Yes.
Everything that's out there is not good for you. Alcohol, we know, is legal. But is it necessarily good for you? No. Not for this person, not for this recovering addict.
Well, back in the day, so with the marijuana thing too, so back in the day, when I was younger, we would smoke like Mexican grass, dirt weed, kind of thing. It was all bundled up, right? Same thing. It's all sticks and stems, and like you're barely enough to get enough, right?
Yeah.
Now, so I haven't smoked weed in like 10 years, but I used to love smoking weed. Smoke weed every day from the time I was 13 till 18. I smoked weed every day, all day, always high.
Right.
Now, the weed got a lot higher percent THC in it, and like places where, like if you look at Colorado, places where weed is legal, there's a lot of things up with that. So there's car crash fatalities are through the roof.
They say there's also the young people going through a psychosis.
Young people smoke because it's such high THC. They get children's hospitalizations due to marijuana exposure are up. People, marijuana in schools is up. There's a lot of stuff there.
Recovery has been a wonderful thing, man. I wish I had got it. Like I said, with all the support that I've had out there, I just wasn't ready,
Yes.
I certainly had the support through the years. People have reached out to me, have tried to appeal to me, and I just, I took it for what it's worth, okay. And now here it is 38 years later, I'm just getting recovery now, It took me 38 years to get 2.5 years clean. I'm 2.5 years clean now.
Congratulations.
And sober and going strong, and just advocating and ambassador for CCAR.
Yes, sir.
And it's just been a wonderful thing, So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, dude, for coming on and telling a lot of your story. I think you got a lot of amazing things to say, and you really do have an amazing story. And don't ever, one of the things too, like, so it happened when it happened, exactly when it was supposed to happen, right?
Yeah, and I just want to say this
Yeah,
too.
please.
It doesn't matter where you come from.
Yep.
Drugs don't discriminate, man. You know, I came from a good family, I thought,
Yeah.
and I still made bad choices,
Yep.
But I also stress today with my grandchildren that we can make bad choices, but we can overcome that.
Yep.
And here I am today. So I told my grandchildren, I used to tell my kids, because I was away so much that I'm in college. I must have 100 degrees by now, but I made it a point to let my grandchildren know honestly what happened to their grandfather, and they know. So this is like I said, being transparent works for me. For some people,
Was being honest.
yeah. But I also stress today, also in the group, that like I go to the gym, the why. I don't have to let people know that I'm on drugs, that I did drugs either, But at first I was like, I got to tell everybody.
Yeah.
But I can just be me today,
Mm-hmm.
and be just another human being, But I got a story, man,
Yeah.
People see my story, but they don't know. They see my glory, but they don't know my story.
Yep.
They know it now.
Yeah.
So thank you again for the privilege and the opportunity
Yeah.
to share my story. Take a few minutes out of your day.
Of course, dude. You're amazing, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.